No one had ever seen anything like this before. There were dragons living in caves in the mountains around the valley. People saw them from time to time, but they just stayed away from them. They were sort of like snakes. Snakes often run away because they are more afraid of people than people are of them. But no one in the kingdom had ever seen anything like this. One of the jobs of a king is to protect his people. If there is ever a danger, everyone in the kingdom runs for the castle. If there are enemy soldiers, people run for the safety of the castle. From the castle, the knights can fight the enemy soldiers and drive them away. Then the land will be safe again, and people can go back to their homes and their fields. Because the people were very scared, they dropped their tools, their sacks, their lunches, and everything else around them. All they picked up were their babies. And then everyone started to run to the foot of Castle Hill. The guards had already opened the wooden gates because they too had seen the earth grow dark. They too had looked up and seen the world's largest dragon. So they knew all of the people of the kingdom would soon be coming to the castle for protection. As the people starting to walk up the path, women carried their babies and young men helped the older people who were having trouble walking. As they were reaching the top of the path, they could see that the guards had already opened the big wooden doors. Everyone happily shouted because now they could find safety and protection. But their happiness came too soon. The dragon was not only big, but it was smart. It was watching how people were making their way up Castle Hill by following the path that wound around the steep cliffs. Suddenly, the dragon swooped down from high above. It used its sharp claws and grabbed a man. The dragon carried the man away from Castle Hill. Now the people were very scared. Not only had the dragon taken a man away, but now the people could see how ugly and dangerous the dragon was. It was red, almost the colour of blood. It had 2 huge wings, 4 legs with sharp claws and a long tail. It had sharp spikes that ran from the back of its neck to the end of its tail. And as if that were not enough, its face was so scary that people looked away from it. It had more sharp spikes around its face and large, scary-looking golden eyes. People were afraid to look at its eyes because they were afraid they might die. But if you know anything about dragons, you know what the worst part is. Fire. Dragons breathe fire, and because this was such a big dragon, everyone was worried about what the dragon might do. The dragon was still carrying the man away from Castle Hill. People walked faster up the path in case the dragon came back. The man had dropped everything when he'd run to Castle Hill, but he always carried a knife with him. He waited until the dragon was flying low over the river, and he began to stab the dragon. The dragon had tough skin, but he didn't like what the man was doing, so he dropped him, splash, right in the river. The man hid as fast as he could in the tall grasses that grew along the river. He slowly made his way back to Castle Hill. He looked up into the sky often, and he tried to stay hidden as much as he could. Finally, he made it and went up the path as fast as he could. By now, most of the people of the kingdom were safely inside the castle. The guards kept the big wooden doors open in case more people came up the path. While all of this was happening, the king's men were taking their positions around the walls of the castle. At the top of the wall, there was a walkway that went the whole way around the castle wall. There were steps that led up to this walkway. There were also several towers, so you could walk up the steps, go along the walkway, and enter any of the towers. These towers were important because they had long, narrow holes in the walls. These were for the archers, the soldiers with bows and arrows. They could easily shoot arrows out of the narrow holes, but it was very difficult for anyone to shoot arrows through the holes into the towers. The archers were ready, and the knights were ready. Some of the men who worked in the fields knew how to fight, so they were able to help too. The king was now too old and tired and weak to help fight such a huge enemy, so he asked his best knight, Sir Roger, to help defend the kingdom. Sir Roger was happy to do this because he was a good knight, and he also wanted to marry Princess Juliana. Everyone was now in place. People who were not fighters were hidden away in safe places. Even the chickens were put away. They didn't like this because they were used to running around the courtyard and doing whatever they wanted to do.